Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you like college football as much as I do. It's time to talk about the Clemson Tigers. Clemson actually lost a lot on defense. Most of their offense is still there. They have Cade Klubnik as the quarterback now. I actually think highly of him. I know his numbers weren't great throughout his college career so far, but he's only had 2 games and really only one start in the Orange Bowl. Um, so you can't really judge whether or not he's going to be great off of that. But I do think, however, it's great game experience, a conference championship and a New Year's Six bowl game as a true freshman. So I think any of that experience will really help him propel him to have a chance to be great in 2023, which I think he will be. So with that being said, and you have Will Shipley coming back at running back, I think Clemson's offense will be pretty darn good. The defense, I think it actually will be a lot better as far as the pass defense. So I expect Clemson to have a really good season this year. So let's dive into it. They go to Duke in week 1. Duke might be low-key a tough game for them. Duke won 7-8 games last year. They really became a winner out of nowhere, really. But I think they win at Duke. I think they pull away late. 34-14, something like that. But they'll run up the score a little bit in the fourth quarter. Not because Clemson sucks, but again, Duke played pretty good football this past year. And even when you have a team with elite talent playing against a good team with not quite as good talent, but they don't make many mistakes, they tackle well, they do the little things. They don't turn the ball over, anytime you have 2 teams like that, the elite team should win. But the good team can hang around longer than they need to because they play really good football. So that makes a big difference. Then they have to host Charleston Southern and Florida Atlantic. I know Florida Atlantic, by the way, they beat Charleston Southern. They host Florida Atlantic. I know they got Tom Herman. He was the head coach of Texas. I do think he's going to make that football team pretty good, but not in year 1 and not good enough to beat Clemson. And then they host Florida State. There are a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers out there saying that Florida State should beat Clemson this year. They should be the favorite to win the ACC championship. However, I'm one of those guys that says, well, until you beat them, you ain't done anything yet. So until I see Florida State actually beat Clemson, and especially now it's at Clemson this year, I'm picking Clemson to beat Florida State in a nail-biter, in a really close game. With the exception of South Carolina, they have not lost at home since 2016. They've beaten some teams, really good football teams at home. And I think Florida State, they're going to be a great football team this year. I think that will be Florida State's only regular season loss. So then they go to Syracuse. I think they win there. I don't think they have any problems there. They host Wake Forest. No Sam Hartman. No problem. They should win that. And then they go to Miami. Here's the thing. Do I think Miami's a better football program, football team, any of that better than Clemson? No. But Miami has great athletes. Mario Cristobal is about to be in his 2nd year. So by now, I think he will have enforced his philosophy, what he wants, his own standards better by year 2, which is now. And because this is Clemson's 7th, 8th game of the year, 7th game. It's a road game, and I think Miami will be doing pretty good up until that point. I have Miami actually upsetting Clemson. Again, they have really good athletes. They got nothing but elite players all over that team. It just depends how the coach puts it together and who wants to play for him. Remember when, and I'm not trying to make excuses about Miami, but Florida State had the same problem with Mike Norvell in his first year. He sat out a lot of older players at one point in that season, not just because the season was over, really, as far as their record, because they went 3-6, but because there were a lot of discipline problems, a lot of things that went on that football team. A lot of players did not want to play for him, and I remember that a lot of them ended up transferring out. So I think Miami's going through that with Cristobal. I think Miami will do pretty good, so that's why I'm picking. I just have a good feeling about Miami beating Clemson this year because it's in Miami's house. So yeah, and then they go to NC State. I think they win there. They lost Devin Leary to Kentucky, but even if he was there, I don't think he'll beat the same player as he was in the past because he's going through a nasty injury like he did. So they host Notre Dame. They get payback against Notre Dame this year. Notre Dame's not at home, and Notre Dame's going to have a lot of young players. And the line of scrimmage is not exactly a problem for Clemson. All right, I know it kind of was last year, but Notre Dame had a lot of older players on that defensive line. And to be honest, there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds that Clemson had in that game, and they won't have DJ Uyunglele. They'll have Cade Klubnik, who I think is a better passer, a better quarterback, and I think in the long term, a better player at quarterback than DJ Uyunglele. They host Georgia Tech and North Carolina in the following weeks. They should win both those games. I do think Georgia Tech will be a better football team than what they were last year overall. They started horribly, but they finished 5-7. That's not terrible considering that team was only winning 3 games a year at one point. And then I think they lose at South Carolina. Here's the thing. I don't think South Carolina is a better football team or a better program than Clemson is right now. However, South Carolina and Shane Beamer have found ways to win games they should not be winning. I keep harping that because anytime you have a coach like that wins games he shouldn't be winning, usually that's a pattern, especially if it's back-to-back years. While I do think Clemson should win this game because they're far more talented, I just think because this year it's at South Carolina, and the fact South Carolina went to Clemson last year and beat them. They came back to win that game. I don't see Clemson having a perfect season or going with just one loss going to the playoffs. They could go to the ACC championship, maybe. I don't know. Probably. I mean, they're a good football team, and I think they lose to South Carolina. Therefore, I think Clemson will finish 10-2. That's my final prediction on Clemson. I mean, at worst, they could lose to Notre Dame at home. Notre Dame has won 2 of the last 3 games they've played. They could beat Miami and beat Notre Dame. And they could actually go 12-0. They have the talent to do it. I think Dabo Swinney's the right guy to get it done. This is just an opinion-based video. I don't think Clemson sucks. I've kind of said that in the past last year, but it cost me some money. But, hey, it is what it is. Realistically, 11-1 is very likely, but my gut's telling me 10-2. I like to go with my gut. I don't just go with what experts say or what they think. Sometimes I like to think outside the box and think of a scenario that makes sense, or it feels like it makes sense. Sometimes you can't just trust what you see. You gotta go with what you feel, and this is the case. So, Clemson should either way have a really good football season. They'll be fun.